The Dark Knight was coming out, before it actually came out, they did all this cool, what they call viral marketing. And that website was like
so cool.
top of the game when it came to that. And I kept seeing all these things, and I would share them with my brother here. I was like, hey, did you see that crazy little article that was referencing Joker, like in the Mafia and all these cool things. And it was all just viral marketing campaign that they just did a great job with. It was probably one of the best viral marketing campaigns I remember. But on that website, I remember like when they announced that Christopher Maloney was in the movie. He looks kind of like baldish and stuff, and he looks like he has that cool face. He really looks like Lex Luthor. And I remember thinking, oh, he's going to be Lex. And it was before they announced who he was playing. Well, and I was so excited because I thought, he still could be a great Lex Luthor if that was what would have happened. Would have been amazing. But going on Lex Luthor, which is another thing people didn't like in BVS, which we'll cover probably a lot more in depth. I really like Jesse Eisenberg. I think he's awesome, and there's a lot of reasons why. But yeah, Christopher Maloney, he was great in that role.
Well, my brother and I, we used to watch Law and Order Special Victims Unit, and he played Detective Stabler in that. And he just had that cool mindset. Like, I was like, you know what? He could be a superhero. We used to call him Batman all the time. Like, he could totally pull off a Batman sort of character. And then the fact that they brought him into Man of Steel was just like so huge. And I was just like, I don't know who he could be, but he could be somebody, And then they made him a character that I wasn't too familiar with, but like, as far as that character goes, he just nailed that. He just did so amazing.
He was just such a badass. He wasn't scared of anything. Like, that one part is still one of the coolest parts of that whole movie, is when he's just like Feora, who's an alien, obviously.
Nelly Furtado.
Nelly Furtado. She looks kind of like Nelly Furtado. I'm like a bird flying my ship. But anyway, she's like, she's like, so what does she say? Jeremy knows the line better.
She's like, should I tell the general you're unwilling to comply? And he says, I don't care what you tell him.
Oh, man.
Done.
Holy crap, that was so cool.
That seriously was such a cool line.
I got a little chill again already just from you acting that out, because I pictured it in my head.
I just love his serious courage. Like, that's a straight alien that was just throwing people around, throwing buildings around. They already saw what they were doing to Man of Steel itself, right? And the fact that, he said that and stood up to that alien was just amazing, And Zod had that crazy dynamic in that show where I remember that scene where Clark Kent's just hanging out in his parents', farm, and they're just, I don't know, he's doing dishes or something, right? And his mom's outside, Martha, and you hear, or she's inside. No, she's outside, right? And she comes in because they hear this noise on the TV, and it just turns on, and it's like, has that kind of Signs vibe to it, right?
Yeah, it does.
That seriously creeped me out in the way that was like,
it's behind.
Yeah, it kind of had that crazy sort of, it's like, I'm looking for one of my own, and you guys are harboring somebody of mine. But like, before he brought in all that, it was like, whoa, this is really creepy the way they handled it, and I really liked it because it did feel foreign. It felt like an alien thing, happening, like an Armageddon kind of moment. You know?
And it reminded me of like, because there's these, and people that don't know, you should Google it. But there's these like sounds from space that are unknown, like they don't know where they came from. They're almost like radio transmissions. And that's what freaked me out about it, is I had heard those radio transmissions that are unknown as far as like where they've come from, and they almost feel like they're from like a lot of theories behind it is that they're from like other worlds, right, with life on them and stuff. And so when I listen to those recordings, it's really scary, and that's what tugged at my heart, like my strings, when I was watching that movie. As I was like, dude, that feels so much like those recordings, and it kind of scared me. It made me have some fear, and that's what a villain should do. Is you should have fear. Like, you should feel fear for the hero, especially if you're rooting for the hero, which I think DC has done a great job with that. I think Marvel, on the other hand, is starting to, in a weird way, they're starting to like make the heroes look like a bunch of fools, and the villains just look like we believe in, like we trust where they're coming from. And
yeah, like I guess
about,
compared to Vulture, right? Vulture
right.
In Spider-Man Homecoming, and of course I like Spider-Man, and Tom Holland did a good job. I'm still a forever supporter of my Spider-Man, which was the Amazing Spider-Man.
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield
was
just
Andrew
awesome.
Garfield.
But
he was amazing.
He just had that cool New Yorker vibe. But like with Tom Holland and stuff, like he played a pretty good Spider-Man and things were good. But Michael Keaton really kind of, to me, stole that show. And you kind of like, you believed his cause. You understood why he was doing what he was doing. And that was a cool dynamic that they did there. But I feel like...
And they did that in Man of Steel, too. I mean, you really understood where Zod was coming from, too, in a weird way. Like, you may not have... been on his side completely, but you at least understood where he was coming from, and it didn't feel like he was just doing it for no reason. But
I felt like Man of Steel brought it in even more to where it's like, it was like you still rooted for Superman. It's like, we need Superman to do this because this is going to be super catastrophic. And it was just like the villains just had a lot more. They pack a bigger punch in Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman and things like that. So, man, it was a joy to watch Man of Steel.
It was, and we're gonna take a quick little break here. We're gonna pop open another beer, and then we'll come right back to you guys. All right? Thanks for listening. We'll be right back.
Be the hero, be the change, be the savior, or be none of it.
You don't owe this world a thing.
We're back.
We're back, Gotham Goons. Thank you guys for waiting it out. We're still talking about Man of Steel for those who are just catching up. And I wanted to talk a little bit about where we think Superman should go. Obviously, we're talking about Man of Steel, and Man of Steel 2 has still not come out, but they've sort of announced it, and they just haven't found a director, of course.
I swear there's going to be a riot soon because people are going crazy online. It's like, Man of Steel 2!
There's a lot of Superman fans out there, and you know, they're all about Superman, and they may not care about anybody else in the DCEU, which is kind of cool. Superman's like the first superhero that actually made it big in the comics, so, you know.
Yeah, he could jump when he first came out. He couldn't fly. Here's the thing. So I wasn't a huge fan of Superman, like I was talking about before, right? So I just want to get this cleared out, right? Both Roman and I were huge Batman fans growing up. We grew up with the Michael Keaton Batman.
Still are.
We're
Gotham
still
Goons.
huge Batman, of course, yes. But we grew up with Michael Keaton Batman. It was Batman, then Batman Returns.
You want to get nuts?
And all that stuff, right? And it was just such an amazing time for us growing up. The animated series, there was Batman Beyond. There was just so many cool things going on, and that's what really got us into it. And then what happened for me was, you know, I just really started catching on to what Superman really is. You know, before it's like, oh, Superman. You know, I hate Superman because he has like so many powers. He's unstoppable. He just keeps new powers getting added to him. It's like,
but he takes a whooping more than anybody else.
That's what I like about it. If you think about it, right? Hope stands for hope. His S, right? It's not an S. It stands for hope. So what he's saying there is he can be the one that actually goes out when there's this doomsday type character, right? And actually be the punching bag. Well, guess who's in the background trying to figure things out? Batman, the detective, the ultimate detective, and he'll figure it out. And guess what? They'll stop that bad guy. But guess who has to take a beating for Superman? And that's why I really like Superman. He can handle it because he has those powers. But he'll be willing to sacrifice like he is. So that's amazing. I think that's a really cool thing. And that's what really drew me into him as a character. So
yeah, and Henry Cavill has like this vulnerability about him. Like he feels vulnerable, but he also feels like he knows, you know, that he's super powered and stuff. So like he has like this really cool dynamic to him that I just really enjoy. And I think when you watch like Henry Cavill versus the Christopher Reeves, you know, Christopher Reeves had that too, which I think is why people loved Christopher Reeves so much. Like when he was Superman, he was Superman. When he was Clark, he was this bumbling Clark. But one cool thing that I really liked in BBS was when they explored the Daily Planet, and you know, hey, I logged into your Dropbox, Clark, and I told you to cover that football thing, and nothing about football, just the freaking Gotham Bat thing I told you not to cover. Told you to drop it, right? So
that's the Perry White I love right there, seriously.
And I like that they, you know, they're going a little bit more realistic with it. I like that they make fun of newspapers and stuff like that in that movie. You know, people aren't really buying newspapers anymore. It's all online type of stuff.
And what's that scene? You're talking about how Clark has that dynamic where he's kind of vulnerable and stuff.
Yeah.
You're talking about that scene, if I remember right, where Lois is sitting in the bathtub and he comes home with flowers and stuff. And like, that's seriously one of my favorite scenes. And just the fact BBS, that you see Superman.
For those who haven't seen it, it's in BBS. It's
go through it.
You know, it's basically after the destruction, you know, in BBS and all that stuff, and you know, the news is covering all this. You know, how news does. Unfortunately, this is just what news does. They take sometimes a small story and make it huge. Sometimes they take a big story and they twist it the way they want it to. And obviously, you know, Superman has taken this hard. Like his reputation has just suffered horribly. You know, because of all this pain that people have had happen to him based on.
And you can see that, like a man of integrity, like he is, like a man of, like his dad, right? Like Jonathan Kent. You know. Being the sacrifice, being the one that needs to do the right thing every single time, and he's hearing that, you know, everybody's against him, you know, and so that's like, that's, you know, that dynamic you can see.
He's so basically kind of trying to, like, you know, you could see it in his face when she's like, you know, they're saying all this stuff on the news, they're saying all this, and he's like, you know, I didn't mean to hurt those people if that's what they're saying, you know. He's like, I really didn't, like, you know, you can tell he's
tormented by it.
Tormented, you know? Yeah, just hurting him so much on the inside, and all he wants to do is surprise girlfriend that, with some flowers and just come home and be the good guy, because that's what he wants to be, is the good guy.
So again, that's just progression. Like, you see Henry Cavill playing this character as he continues to grow as Superman, and that's another little perfect dynamic. It's like,
and literally he died. He died for the he died for the team. Like, that's exactly like what you were just saying. He takes it for the team. He died, and spoiler alert, he comes back if you haven't seen Justice League. But
if you haven't seen Justice League, go see it.
Yeah,
what the heck.
It's one of the cool things about Justice League, and we'll talk more on this later. But one of the cool things about it was that it catered to some of those complaints, some of the people that only like Marvel movies and they didn't like DC. And I think the reason people don't like DC has a lot to do with not understanding what's going on. Like, if you're not really paying attention, they're deeper films. They just are. They're always going to be deeper films, just like the comics.
They're like
comics
artistic films, It's like
DC Comics is way deeper than Marvel. Marvel is more like, it's for teens. It's like for, late teens, early adulthood, whereas, and even kids too. Whereas DC is like, there's this fine line. It's like kids, or it's like not kids at all, and it's all of a sudden way adult.
And going back to Batman Begins, Dark Knight and stuff, those were artistic films. Like, they were seriously complete masterpieces, even if we didn't like some of the direction they went in. Seriously, those movies, same with Man of Steel, same with Batman vs. Superman, and same with Justice League. They really just like, and that's what Roman's saying is Justice League did sort of change a little bit to try to cater to more of that, campy,
cookie
fun,
type stuff. Yeah,
this is mainstream, blah blah blah, right? But if you know those characters and you fall in love with those characters, you're going to see the artisticness for what it is and how amazing it was, in every single movie from before that. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to talk about here, is just how amazing Zack Snyder is, how amazing every character is, and how in depth they're becoming.
Yeah, and it's here's the thing that I feel a little bit bad about. It's like, the reason we're covering DCU, the DC Extended Universe, is because it's almost like it's starting to take off. It's like starting to like shoot off like a rocket, right?
Heck yeah, Shazam coming up.
Right, but the problem is
Wonder Woman.
Is that I think, and Wonder Woman did great, by the way. We're going to discuss all these films.
We'll discuss Wonder Woman.
We're probably going to have to break this thing up because we've already been going for 20 minutes, and now we're 6 more minutes into it after break. So, obviously we're going to have to cover. These movies are too long to just do short snippets. Like, we have to talk about these films because I think they're really great, and I think they're just about to take off, and I think people need to open their minds a little bit to it, and that's another reason why we're doing this podcast, is so we can explain to people like the things we see that maybe the normal everyday person may not actually see in these films. And obviously, here's the other thing is, just like anything, we want good stories. People are catered to stories. Like, we want, we sit around the fire when we're camping and we listen to an elder, like a grandpa type character, tell us some story. Whether it's true or not, as long as it's told well, we gobble that stuff up as people. That's just like what we do. And I think that the DC universe is really trying to do that. They're trying to build this story arc that's just trying to flow. Obviously they didn't have a lot of funny stuff until Ezra Miller showed up, but that was part of the plan. Ezra Miller, which is the Flash,
and now Shazam coming up.
Shazam is coming up, and it's going to be hilarious.
I'm so excited.
And Wonder Woman has some funny parts.
Even
Aquaman,
to
build up to that.
You're a crazy person, Bruce Wayne. Aquaman had his little funny moments.
But Man of Steel has a lot of like trial tribulations. It's like when you start anything. Anytime you start a new endeavor, like you're starting out or you're trying to progress in some shape or form, it's always going to be a little bit harder in the beginning, right? And then it starts getting better, but there may be a fall first. Like, there may be like a reaction from your action, right?
If you think about it too, like, I don't know why people are a little more frustrated about the movies, because they say so much praise for these the TV shows, right? But if you watch like Flash, and don't get me wrong, like I know Roman's really into Ezra Miller. I'm kind of a little bit more into the Flash, the Barry Allen from the TV show, just because I really like him. Grant Gustin as an actor, he's awesome. But here's the thing.
He's a Superman fan, by the way. He loves Superman more than anything else.
I love that. That makes sense.
So we got to cover it.
But here's the thing. Grant Gustin, in that TV show, right? Flash is kind of like a soap opera for us boys. If you watch it, it's like he's like the human bobblehead, as they talk about in the memes and stuff. Seriously, everything he says, he's nodding to. And it's just one of those things, like, so I feel like, as a TV show, they've been, and even Gotham, right? None of those really have a ton of funny stuff in them. It's more of a soap opera or a serious show, and so I don't know why they're
drama with a little bit of romance.
So I just don't know why they're beating up the movies as much, right? Because all of Gotham or all of DC in general, TV shows and movies are all kind of pretty serious, which that's how it's supposed to be, especially for
DC was always that way. Like DC can have some funny characters, and they're meant to have funny characters to break up that drama. But DC is meant to. The drama is the most important part, obviously, and then there's the little fluffy stuff, which is the funny stuff, and that's why. When we talk more about Wonder Woman, we're going to cover Wonder Woman 84, which was recently announced as the second Wonder Woman movie, and